So the restoration project that we're presently undergoing in partnership with the Kohler Foundation. The Kohler Foundation was in contact and communication with Prophet Isaiah and his wife prior to his passing in 2020. As an institution, it is their work to preserve the legacy and the lineage and the contributions of people like Prophet Isaiah. And eventually, they were able to create an opportunity to restore that site, but they actually needed a partner locally that was willing and able to share in their vision of preservation. So it was through that they eventually came into contact with our Niagara Falls National Heritage Area. We didn't hesitate in terms of being a partner in a project like this. And from there, we started to work together on the particular stages that are necessary in order to preserve his work. One of those stages was to preserve that art. And a part of it was being able to also partner with an organization, a business that specialized in projects such as this. B.R. Howard out of Carlisle, Pennsylvania, is also a partner in this project. And it seemed like everything just worked with a sense of synchronicity in terms of our partners with this type of project, because all of us share in this vision of not only preservation, but to make sure that the people who are involved in projects such as this have the same intentions. The Kohler Foundation eventually came here to the site, met with our team members, and we mapped out a blueprint on the stages that were necessary. So the first phase consisted of exterior work. We actually partnered with local construction firms, and we were able to also employ local people who operate in those skilled trades. And from there, we restored the roof. We also did a complete makeover of the garage. And the project itself is transformational because we may have had one idea of what we wanted to do initially, but as we moved through the phase and through processes, we realized that it may be a better way to reach a certain goal. Initially, we were going to demolish the garage, but after further thought, we saw that the garage was stable. It could serve as extra space, and with that thought in mind, we were able to come up with a plan to build a new roof for the garage, stabilize it, and that also coincided with some of the roof work that we were doing as well. We were also able to create new sidewalks that were accessible to people who may be in a wheelchair. We did a lot of debris removal within the yard, and we also created privacy fencing around the property itself. The first thing that we did before we got into the actual phases of restoration or renovation is that we actually had to remove the art. And for people who live in the community, people who are also aware of who Prophet Isaiah was, they were kind of taken aback to see the art removed because initially they didn't know where the art was actually going. And it's a saying that sometimes you don't miss. There's a saying that sometimes you see the value of things and miss things when they're gone. But it also gave us an opportunity to start educating people about what this process actually is and what we're doing as an institution. That art had to be strategically removed. And prior to even removing the art, hundreds of photographs had to be taken of every single part of that outside display, because it was our intention to not only restore some of the art that could be salvaged, but to reproduce or restore some of the art and to replace it back on site after the exterior renovations are complete. So that process in itself is one of the most complicated projects that I could even imagine, because there were literally hundreds of pieces of art that Prophet Isaiah mounted on the exterior of the home. And when you look at photographs of the various different stages of his work, sometimes between 2 or 3 years, you may see a photograph of one particular area of the exterior of the home, and a couple of years later, the paint is entirely different. So that was a part of his process. If some of the artwork needed to be repainted, he wouldn't just repaint it the way that it looked prior to that. He would paint it entirely different. So not only did B.R. Howard have to take hundreds of photographs of the present structure of the exterior artwork, but they also had to reference different photographs that was taken of the site years prior to that. Everything was mounted and positioned in a specific type of way as well. So they also had to mark certain areas in the land where certain stones were at, and the way in which they sat, measure the proximity of one stone to another stone in the area. It's hard to imagine striving to deconstruct this megalith of art that literally took him over a decade to create, and then to actually replace it and restore it as if it never left. So that was the first part of the process of even this preservation project. The art itself had to be photographed, it had to be measured, it had to be deconstructed and preserved, and then taken out of sight, taken off site to the conservation company.